That sounds creepy.
Welcome to Menkaura's funerary complex.
What is that noise? Oh,
Menkaura's pyramid are much less
sorry.
grandiose.
I'm just going to quickly fix that camera. Yeah, I'm going to put it up in the top right hand corner because that's usually where it's not so busy.
Menkaura's pyramid shows a great deal of complexity in
Sorry
its
about that.
internal and external finish. The
Oh,
outside was partially covered in red granite, while the internal walls were richly decorated. This latter innovation would not catch on until the end of the 5th dynasty, when pyramid texts began to adorn the walls.
I just had to. I've even got Call of Duty Black Ops and Skyrim and all sorts in my wardrobe, even Star Wars. Yep.
Menkaura's pyramid contains 2 sloping passages, both located in the northern side of the structure.
Here we go.
The upper one was abandoned during the construction phase, whereas the lower one, slightly above the base of the monument, constitutes the real entrance. The lower passage leads to a first room, which, for the first time since the reign of Djoser, is decorated with engraved false doors.
See, a lot of this, when you go into it, you think it's got to be fake the way they built these sometimes inside, but when you actually look at it and see the history behind it, they pretty much modeled it almost 100% like it used to be.
While Menkaura's pyramid complex was unfinished at the time of his death, it was hastily and somewhat shabbily completed by his successor, Shepseskaf. Even so, this funerary structure marks a watershed in the history of this kind of monument. From then onwards, the pyramid shrank, whereas the mortuary temple expanded both in its quantitative and qualitative aspects. Of particular note, it is within Menkaura's mortuary temple that one can find the heaviest block of limestone ever used for a pyramid complex, weighing in at over 200 tons.
First of all, how does a pyramid shrink? Please, guys, I'd like if you could probably put that in the comments if you can find out how that's possible. And 200 tons, how do you lift that back in these times? That would be... that'd be ridiculously crazy.
Menkaura's causeway was completed in mud brick by the king's successor, whereas the lower part was nothing more than a simple ramp. As for the Valley Temple, it was built in 2 phases. The foundations were first laid out in limestone during Menkaura's reign, but the temple itself was completed in mud brick afterwards. As such, the Valley Temple was soon damaged and ended up being completely rebuilt during the 6th dynasty.
Did that just say 1992? I swear to God, if I see my birthday come up on this, I'm just gonna laugh.
3 small structures, referred to as Menkaura's Queen's Pyramids, were erected along the southern side of the main pyramid. One of them was a smooth-faced pyramid, while the other 2 were more basic step pyramids.
Just joking.
It is difficult to assess whether the latter were designed as such or were left unfinished with no casing to smooth out their surfaces.
I think it might be more like a symbolic means to show that that's his peers. You got the pharaoh or king, and then you got these to as their people, I guess, for the pharaohs and their queens.
The easternmost pyramid was built with the traditional rooms and corridors found within a satellite pyramid meant to house the king's ka. However, a
What type
granite
of car does
sarcophagus
he
was
drive?
found within,
Sorry.
leading to the conclusion that it was used as an actual tomb rather than as a symbolic cenotaph. Drawing on these observations, some assume that this pyramid was first built as a
There we
satellite
go.
pyramid for the king's
Sorry.
ka,
I
before
forgot
seeing its purpose
the tag
change to that of
holding
a
that down.
queen's tomb.
Yeah,
Which
not
queen,
very good.
however, remains a mystery.
Probably the one he cheated on and he was afraid to let that get out there. Alright, let's finish off the pyramids and then that's done. Egypt's first trade was with India's spices over northern traveled across the Red Sea in long caravan routes. Yes, I have tried starting inside of a pyramid and I love it. Oh.
Welcome to Inside Djoser's Step Pyramid. The architect of the Step Pyramid, Imhotep, was a man of great importance to Pharaoh Djoser and ancient Egyptians in general. The base of a statue of Djoser, discovered in 1926, celebrates Imhotep as a carpenter, sculptor, stonemaker, and chief of the seers. Little is known of Imhotep's day-to-day life. While he is credited for writing medical texts, it is for his role of architect that he is most famously known.
Oops.
From the design of the pyramid to the elements within the complex itself, Imhotep set out to create something that would immortalize his king. An architectural achievement, the Step Pyramid was made from stone blocks instead of mud brick. It was the first time Egyptians built a monument of that height. Imhotep explicitly intended for the stone to reflect natural materials. The funerary complex of Djoser remained famous throughout the centuries and millennia, and its great architect, Imhotep, was deified by ancient Egyptians during the late period. In addition to the central subterranean palace built for Djoser, 11 wells were dug. Each went to a depth of 33 meters and connected with a horizontal gallery extending for about 20 meters. The first 5 galleries were intended for members of the royal family.
Yeah,
2 passages lead underground and branch off in 3 directions to various magazine galleries. This vast underground space accommodated sections for storage and ceremonial offerings. One of the tunnels, starting on the east side of the pyramid, contained 40,000 stone vessels, many of them belonging to the king's ancestors. The burial chamber of Djoser is located at the bottom of a 28-meter deep central shaft. According to Egyptologist Jean-Philippe Laure, the chamber was originally made from polished blocks of limestone, while its ceiling was decorated in 5-pointed stars. At some point, however, the limestone blocks were replaced entirely by pink granite blocks, leaving behind only fragments of limestone blocks decorated with stars.
First of all, as soon as I looked at that, I thought of penis. And he said shaft. Got me going a little bit. And then when he started saying originally made, originally polished, I'm thinking, okay, that's getting a bit awkward. But changing it to pink granite blocks just tipped me over the edge. God, I have a child sense of humour still. 20 and I'm still, well actually 21 as of this week, but yeah. Still have a child sense of humour. Oh my God.
At the foot of the chamber are many tunnels going in all directions. This maze of tunnels, galleries, and chambers stretches over 5 kilometers. There are a number of dead ends and false doors. They may have been intended for the afterlife, rather than to fool thieves. Unlike the Great Pyramid of Giza or Menkaure, the Pyramid of Djoser does not have any extra openings dug out by thieves. There was no need for them. Because of the easy access into the tunnels and along the corridors, thieves had little trouble clearing out the temples once inside. It is unknown when the mummy of Djoser was stolen. All that remained was a left foot, found by French Egyptologist Jean-Philippe Lauer in 1934. This architect, who devoted his whole life to meticulously exploring the complex, believed it belonged to Djoser. The Pharaoh's apartments, also known as the Blue Chambers, are decorated with blue-green tiles meant to imitate the reed matting that covered the walls and windows of his palace. The stone is carefully curved and painted to look like the rolled mats of open doorways and curtains. There are 2 long rooms running side by side along a north-south axis. The south room has false doors separated by stone panels, while the north room is a corridor which allows access to side chambers. Nearby chambers originally housed the pharaoh's treasures. The door frames are made of fine limestone and carved with the king's name. As in the south tomb, reliefs are carved into the doorways. These reliefs show the king performing rituals and visiting divine sanctuaries for all eternity. Their interiors are fictive additions made by the team to add to the wonders of the tomb. It is clear from the elaborate detail and scale of the complex that this funerary monument was a technological marvel of its time. Welcome to the Step Pyramid Complex of Djoser. The Step Pyramid is at the center of an enclosed complex, comprised of temples, models of palaces, and artificial constructions, all built for the afterlife of Pharaoh Djoser. The funeral complex itself covers 15 hectares and is located on the highest point of the Saqqara Plateau. It's clear from the elaborate detail and scale of the complex that this was a technological marvel of its time. The only fragment of information regarding the design plans of the complex was discovered on a section of stone containing an architectural sketch of a vault.
Welcome to the stream, Fujimaru3326. How you doing?
The Step Pyramid is the first monument built of stone. Standing at 60 meters high, it was the tallest of its time. Built 4,700 years ago, it was originally intended as a mastaba, which was a flat-roofed rectangular tomb. Its famous architect, Imhotep, may have felt this was too humble for the great pharaoh Djoser and began to add the steps.
Ah, that'd be why. There we go. Sorry, echoing in the background from the comments because I'm having to watch it live as well to be able to currently view comments. And I'll just shift over
The
a
Step
bit.
Pyramid complex is enclosed within a 1,600-meter long wall that is 10 meters high. This large wall was made out of white limestone and oriented along the north-south axis.
Imagine the time it would take just to do all this. Jeez, to imagine that this can be done in a lifetime for a pharaoh.
While there are 14 doors, only its eastern door was intended to accommodate the living. The remaining false doors were built as portals for the king's ka to pass through. Along with false doorways, the walls were designed with bastions and steeples resembling a defensive wall. The positioning of these design elements suggest that they were related to the Hebsed festival.
Hey, 1997, the year I was born. And that's true. 1997.
The only real... This enclosure has a stone canopy carved to resemble wooden logs. At the end of the passage is a large opening. Meant to resemble a doorway, it has carved doors and hinges that are permanently open and immovable. The corridor is lined with 20 pairs of columns up to 6 meters high, built by stacking stone drums. The completed facade was made to resemble reed stock bundles. Traces of red paint were found on the columns, along with black paint on the support walls. This would have had the effect of blending the walls into the shadows to give the red columns the illusion of standing on their own.
Oh.
Chambers are located on either side of the columns and are thought to be chapels representing the provinces of Upper and Lower Egypt. According to some Egyptologists, the arrangement of the rooms may be symbolic of jurisdiction and judgment.
I really can't wait for Origins 2 because I hear that in
Guarded by a
about,
line of carved
let's
snakes,
see,
this tomb is located at the southern end of the courtyard.
3.5 hours
The
at
burial
least
chamber is
until I can
beneath
download
it,
it.
down a 30-meter deep
And
shaft.
after that it's just 2 days so
The
I can play it.
low-ceiling chamber resembles a mastaba and is relatively intact compared to the later burial chamber. The tomb is made of pink granite, though there is evidence it was once polished limestone. Too small for a body, it is possible that the tomb was intended for the king's ka, or to hold the canopic jars containing the king's organs. Later traditions in burials would have the canopic jars in the same chamber as the body. A polished limestone staircase leads west from the tomb to underground apartments. Some of these rooms were intended to accommodate the king and his family in the afterlife. Many large jars of pottery were found, including some that still had deposits of beer, milk, and oil inside them. The false doorways are decorated with reliefs of the king taking part in rituals. In these reliefs, he is seen carrying agricultural tools, running, and performing a ritual for the reanimation of the deceased.
He really is a lot more involved than I thought.
The architect Imhotep chose stone as a building material in order for the complex to last. Following the completion of the initial mastaba, Imhotep devised a burial of more ambitious dimensions. He set about stacking mastabas on top of each other. Evidence shows that the pyramid was enlarged twice by additional cuts into the steps, eventually reaching 62 meters in height and 121 meters by 109 meters at its base.
It's like they never stop working. After the pharaoh's decease, it's like just constant ritual after ritual after ritual. So in a way, they just live on.
A staircase allowing the pharaoh to enter the divine world was represented by a tiered pyramid, oblong in shape, completely enveloping the original mastaba. The pyramid itself is a solid structure. All of the chambers and tunnels are beneath the structure. Pharaoh Djoser the Sacred was the founder of the Third Dynasty. He ruled for 19 years. During his reign, he was known as Horus Nedjereket, divine of the body. He was given the name Djoser several centuries after his death as a sign of respect, and he is regarded as one of the greatest pharaohs of Egypt. An apocrypha was drafted in his name during the Ptolemaic period, 2,500 years after his death.
Yeah, I just gotta hope my phone doesn't have a notification, otherwise it'll fall on the ground when it vibrates.
Djoser was associated with the sky god Horus in his human form. A plinth near the step pyramid is inscribed with his name and associated with Horus. He was the first to reside in Memphis, making it the central hub of government for the region. Djoser was known to have built many temples and monuments before the complex at Saqqara. The funerary complex was the first of its kind and would mark Djoser's greatest architectural achievement. The funerary complex was built to resemble Djoser's palace, with the stone carved to imitate mud brick, trees, and reeds, creating details and softer textures in harmony.
There we go. Sorry about that. Slight loss of connection there.
In the corner is a temple referred to as T. This temple is among the most mysterious structures in the complex. Its outer facade is plain, while inside it is decorated with intricate jed pillars and carvings. It's possible that this place was intended to be where the Ka of the king materialized, symbolically visiting the platform of the Hebsed courtyard from the afterlife.
Yeah, sorry about that message. Sometimes it pops up and I'm still streaming, so I don't know what's going on.
The Hebsed festival enabled the pharaoh to maintain universal order and renew godly powers. Through a series of trials and religious rites, such as dance, offerings, and visiting the sanctuaries of various deities, the ruler's vital force and divine nature was confirmed. The celebration was meant to represent the ruler's jubilee and would take place every 30 years, though the deadline was not always followed. The earliest known ritual dates from the First Dynasty. Within the complex of Djoser, southeast of the pyramid, is a dedicated space for this essential ritual to be performed by the king even in the afterlife. The Hebsed courtyard is lined with false chapels and equipped with a platform featuring two staircases meant to represent Upper and Lower Egypt. Located in the courtyard, the two pavilions are believed to represent the palaces of Upper and Lower Egypt. Rectangular in shape, the two replica structures face one another. Their facade is similar to the chapels of the Hebsed ceremony, with column crowns carved to look like falling leaves. Because Queen Hetep Hernepti and Princess Inetkas's names were discovered on a stela near the pavilions, it is thought that these funerary chapels were intended for them. The funerary temple is on the north side of the complex, facing the stars where the deceased ruler was believed to travel after death. Within this temple was the pharaoh's serdab, or cellar. It is a small, enclosed space with one wall sloped to match the first step of the pyramid.
Hey!
The north wall has two observation holes. A statue of Djoser is seated on the throne, wearing a mantle and a tripartite wig with a crown known as a Nemes. Representing the king's ka, this statue looks through the observation holes into the courtyard, enabling the king to observe the ceremonies and receive offerings in the afterlife.
That mix it up a bit, see what they have with the agriculture and seasons. Hey, welcome back to the stream again, GPA Gaming. We'll be doing a lot of live streams as of now since I've got a lot of deadlines to catch up on, plus work as well and everything piling up. I've just got to get it done quick, so... Hey, Zen! How you doing, man?
Welcome to Agriculture and Seasons.
Wait, where's the checkpoint? Oh.
While crops were cultivated in different oases around the desert, most of the arable lands were near the Nile. Two types of cereal grain were cultivated: barley and an ancient wheat known as emmer. These two key ingredients contributed in establishing bread and beer as the staple of the Egyptian diet and the basis of its economy.
So guys, while we're here guys, support each other, show some love, subscribe to one another, like your videos, and as a little bonus, I'll share all your channels over every social media account I have: Snapchat, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. I'll get them all across, including on my Twitch account. Tropical 6. I don't think I've heard of that actually. Tropical 6. I'll actually look that up though.
The Ptolemaic era created an agricultural revolution with the introduction of advanced agricultural techniques and new grain types such as rice, durum wheat, and pearl millet. The resulting agricultural mass production greatly increased the economy of ancient Egypt. It also prompted the development of storage and transportation, allowing long-distance trade with other regions.
And guys, I have something pretty big coming up soon. I'm going to be giving away proper PayPal cash, and I mean legit PayPal cash, up to $100 in US dollars, but depending if you're in different countries, I can actually get it out for more. Like, if you're in Australia and you happen to win this giveaway, you can go from $100 to probably about 140.
Both bread and beer
With their
rations were
current
part of a
exchange rate on
system
it.
of barter payment. The state used those goods to pay wages for those who worked in the quarries and at the construction sites. Beer was so important to ancient Egyptians, they had a goddess of beer brewing, Tenenet. Tenenet is seen in many paintings and sculptures with beer, and women are depicted as the primary beer makers.
Usually I love my drink, and I tend to know a lot about the stuff I love to drink. If I had beer that's actually like a type of
Cultural production. Fertile land was divided into plots, and large agricultural villages were encouraged. The state and temples were the biggest landowners. Depending on the region, fertile land was managed by civil servants or rented to individuals. Ancient Egyptians relied on rudimentary tools for land cultivation. Soil was broken down with hoes, and wing plows were used to make furrows.
And also to everyone in this chat now, at the end of this stream, I'll go back through all the live chat comments, head to your channels, and subscribe if I haven't already subscribed to you guys. But just having you guys even here, just simply viewing it, is just amazing to see that you guys still support this channel like you do. And I definitely want to be able to give back
the three
everything I get.
seasons known as Akhet, Heret, and Shemu corresponded to a specific phase of the agricultural process and the river's natural changes. Akhet was the time of the flood, beginning with the appearance of the star Sirius in July. Heret was the time when lands were cultivated, plowed, and sown. This fell between October and November. Shemu ran from May to September and was when harvesting and taxation began.
So basically, the time of year I was born, the lands were being cultivated, ploughed, and sown. Well, actually, yeah, it makes sense. It's just coming out of winter or rain with the harvest crops in.
The pharaoh's duty was to uphold order against chaos and provide for his people. Priests and local governors also wanted to appear as protectors of the people. However, any variation in the Nile's seasons could cause water shortages. This had devastating consequences on wheat and barley crops. The pharaoh, administrators, and priests knew they needed to demonstrate their ability to prevent such a catastrophe from happening. And so they invented the story, which would be inscribed upon the famine stela.
I was about to get a bigger screen for the comments in, but unfortunately my iPad is dead flat. It's not even showing me that I need to charge it, so yeah, that's out of the picture for now. Stuck with the small phone screen. You don't have to feel sad, GBA. Just enjoy
The story
life with the
begins
fullest,
with the
regardless
pharaoh
of what
worried
happens.
for his people.
Life's
The
meant to
Nile
hand you
hasn't
challenges,
flooded in
sometimes
years,
hand you
and
rough
his people
stuff.
are starving.
But
In
the
search
fact
of
that
the
you know it
origins of
hands
the
you that,
flooding,
so you
Djoser
can
seeks
be
out
able to push
Khnum,
past it,
the
you
protector
feel
god of
good
the region
afterwards.
and the
Use
source
that
of the drought.
excitement to
Djoser gives the god offerings and orders his priests to restore the temple of Khnum. These
I
offerings please the
always
god,
have that,
and the
but
floods are
whenever
restored.
life hands me shit,
This
I
story
just
was
smile, laugh
intended
it
to
off,
highlight
and
the importance of the deity
just
in
think
everyone's daily lives,
everything
while
is still to
also
be thankful
demonstrating
for. I
the
just
crucial role that the
keep
priests
that in my
and the
mind
king
and
played in
realize that
feeding and protecting
it's
the
not
people of
always the
Egypt.
end, I guess. There's always a way around everything. And ever since finding out that there's always a way around everything, just enjoy it. I've had so many people keep saying, oh geez, you're the happiest guy I've ever met. Yeah, sometimes I keep getting that a lot. Everyone at work keeps saying, like, I've never met anyone who's more smiley than you. In fact, one of my mates nicknamed me Smiley at work, so I'm stuck with that. among one other name, which I dread to mention just yet. That's a story for another time. If you're looking for a new computer, actually, I can actually get you onto a couple of sites where you can be able to earn up for PCs and such. It's only doing simple surveys and that, but it's not one of those scam ones. It's actually one that I've confirmed has paid out because I've actually taken the time to actually earn up on it. And
throughout all ancient Egyptian
surprisingly,
periods, cities had one thing in common. They were situated along the Nile's shores. Cities were often designated for government or for worship. Major cities had several temples dedicated to numerous gods and goddesses. Egyptians referred to the organization of their cities as a sepat, or later on by the Persian term nome. There were 20 sepat in Lower Egypt and 22 in Upper Egypt. The capital city of ancient Egypt changed many times over the periods.
So, Nome was from Persia? I always wondered why they had that, but now it just seems like districts, I guess, or suburbs, I guess. I think.
One of the largest was Memphis, located in Lower Egypt. It was a key center for religious temples, including their most important deity, Ptah, god of creation.
Hey, welcome to the stream,
Thebes, located in Upper Egypt, competed with Memphis and featured as both a political and a religious center. Two important temples, Luxor and Karnak, were built there. A minor capital of the Sayyid dynasty was the city of Sais. This was the last native Egyptian capital of Egypt.
Also, too, I have a special guest over here. Yep. That's Buster for you. Once he's in here, I can never get him out. I don't have Discord at the moment, but I'm highly considering doing that. It's just at the moment I'm trying to start finishing up all the last minute stuff to stuff like Instagram, Snapchat and all that for my social media stuff, and then
during the Third Dynasty,
once I
under
get through
Pharaoh
that,
Joseph,
I'll be able to do my Discord.
Memphis became the first religious and administrative capital of Egypt. Even when the political capital of Egypt decentralized itself, pharaohs were crowned in this sacred city in order to legitimize their ascension to the throne, up to and including Alexander the Great. Though little remains today save ruins south of Cairo, we can guess at the structure of the city, which stretched up to 5 kilometers in length and 2 kilometers in width.
Definitely is, definitely. In fact, after this stream, actually, I'll have a look into setting up a Discord, and I'll keep it similar to the channel name for you guys and get all that set up tonight. And once I've got that, the next few live streams and videos that I do, I'll put that in the description for you guys. And the other dog's somewhere, but I don't know where she is. She's a Staffy too, but yeah, I keep forgetting what they said she was crossed with.
Memphis was also referred to as the city with the 100 doors, or the White Walls. These names were in reference to the wall which surrounded the city. Under the protection of Ptah, god of craftsmen, the city was a thriving religious and economic hub.
Welcome to Artisans of Ancient Egypt.
Oh, actually.
It was under the watchful eye of Ptah of Memphis, the god of craft and architecture, that ancient Egyptians developed the unique rendition. Those who created it was likely very dissimilar to the modern concept of the word. Instead of artists, the creative culture had skilled and respected artisans. The most significant categories of specialties for crafters were drawing, painting, sculpture, and metalworking.
How old am I? 20, but on the 8th of October, I'm turning 21. So I'm so close. I'm so close. And at the end of the year, I'm going to be able to head over to New Zealand, but I'm considering keeping it back till Easter of next year. So I'll have some vlogs over in New Zealand for you guys. But yeah, I'm
Ancient Egyptian
officially 20
craftspeople
for the
created
next
both
6
art and a
days.
wide variety of mundane, everyday tools. Every item created had a specific purpose and was produced by anonymous artisans who worked alone or with a team. Most crafts, such as pottery and metalworking, were utilized for everyday items. Luxury goods and artwork illustrations served temple rituals and were not meant for public display. Artisans rarely signed their names to the work, though they were clearly aware that they possessed a unique skill and talent for the task. All its forms has offered not only a practical insight into the way ancient Egyptians lived, but in how they viewed the world
What?
and their place in it.
What are you doing?
The balance of order and chaos was crucial in both the physical and the metaphysical universes. As a result, their art appears to follow a strict set of stylistic conventions that supported this worldview. From households and palaces to temples and tombs, pottery, papyrus, and textile items were essential to the everyday life of ancient Egyptians.
In fact, actually, I will be actually trying to do more international vlogs if I can. Now that I got my passport, I'm highly considering it. Just gotta save up, but yeah, I'll definitely do that actually. After New Zealand, I'll head over to Malaysia, and then I'm also considering doing another trip as well over to America. So hopefully just get out a lot of
In
the
ancient
locations around the
Egyptian
world
culture,
and see the
drawing was
world for
used
what
as
it really is.
illustration,
Instead of seeing
such
it
as
on a
seen in
game,
the
it's
Book of
better
the
to see
Dead.
in real life.
It was
Yeah, I
also
love
the
that.
first step in the creation of a relief, painting, or statue. Two-dimensional representations were concerned with order and form, and were intended to honor gods and
Definitely
promote the
check that out
transition of
actually.
the soul to the afterlife.
Yeah, I'll definitely check that out. In fact, there we go. Save the comment now, so anytime I hop onto Discord, I'll just be able to bring up that comment, and then yeah, it'll definitely help in, buddy. Whereabouts in Malaysia actually do you live actually? Because in Australia I live in Queensland up towards the Cityway, Brisbane, Gold Coast area. So like I'm just sort of out
Stylistically,
just on the
Egyptians
more
were concerned with the depiction of the human form's inner self.
border-like areas.
As such, artistic representations were not concerned with realism, but rather with idealized youth and perfectly harmonious visuals.
That looks like just some type of thing that's setting up for a jump scare. The background completely blank. Can't see any eyes.
An exception to this were scenes depicting hunting and battle, where the environment and enemies moved in lively, even chaotic ways. Animals and foes were depicted piled up, as if describing chaos,
Really?
with Egyptians standing in solemn, disciplined poses, bringing order to the scene.
Sorry about that. The beauty of having a pet. Woohoo! Yay! Actually, yeah, if you want to help me out, then sure, I'll definitely love to work on someone and
Reliefs could
get
be
the
either in
Discord set
high
up.
relief or low relief. Either method required a surface suited to the desired technique. Preparation of the surfaces differed depending on the quality of the rock. A quarried block only needed a simple smoothing. Rough-cut rock monuments, such as those found in tombs, required more work.
Alright.
Often the surface was coated in
A little bit
plaster
straighter.
before being sculpted. For reliefs, preliminary
Oh.
sketches were drawn in red, then framed
Oh,
with a
wow.
red grid to
You
position
can
the
do that?
elements of the scenes.
Wow,
Corrected
that's
sketches
actually
were in
quite
black,
handy. So if I
and
was
once approved, the scene was ready to be
streaming
carved.
here and wanted to
This
see
method
both
likely
comments, that's
explains the
not
name
too
given
bad.
to relief makers, the one who draws the outlines.
If I knew that sooner, I would have been on that straight away. Like first thing I would have set up.
Statues were believed to be vessels for the souls of the deceased, or deities. That is why a sculptor was called the one who makes it live. This divine duty earned them the utmost respect. As with a relief, creation of a sculpture began with a drawing. Most statues were made of quarried blocks of stone, primarily limestone, though sometimes
Definitely.
harder stones such as quartzite were also used.
Oh, I know what you mean. Like I used to do a lot of sport back when I was younger. Every time I did soccer, I always came home feeling absolute pain in the knees. I was just absolutely done. I was just sweating out and I could barely walk for the rest of the day.
In
Especially
ancient
after all
Egypt,
the
the
trick
profession
shots
of
I
crafter
failed.
was organized and relied on a specific hierarchy.
And in fact
Most
too,
artisans depended
I
on an
do
institution to
really
provide them
apologise
with
if
raw
my voice
materials.
is at all terrible with this mic.
There were 3 working levels for craftsmanship:
I
domestic, large
had another
estates,
pair.
and within palace and
Where are
temple
they?
workshops. Some royal workshops, at their largest, covered an area of about 2.8 square kilometers in size.
I used to use these in a lot of my streams and stuff and videos as well. However, I was going to use these for if I did a voice chat type of thing for the community, but it's not this part that's broken. It's that it snapped. It's wobbly as hell and I can't fix it. So I'm stuck with these basic headphones there. And also too guys, not just Spider-Man's out now that I can do, but I yeah, that's I've
At the domestic
actually
level, most
given my
Egyptians were
Fortnite away.
craftspeople to a greater or lesser extent.
I
The
do
ability
Black
to
Ops
repair tools
Blackout
was a
mode.
daily
I
necessity.
will be doing a lot of
Crafted
that.
everyday items could also be bartered for at the local market. Artisans with skills but lacking in resources worked at large estates, where the elite provided them with space to work and raw materials. The most skilled artisans were employed in royal or temple projects and benefited from a special status. They were provided with good workspaces and considered to be highly skilled.
I tried a lot of those videos, but after a while I think Ninja really took the stage because he was sort of already established there. So was RLA and TSM Myth and all that. I think they already had like the chance.
An ancient text known as the Satires of Trades has a
Oh,
number
that's
of
right.
descriptive summaries that offer teasing glimpses into how artisans were perceived. A coppersmith was said to stink and have fingers that resembled crocodile droppings, while potters
What?
were said to be like those who lived in bogs. This view was likely exaggerated in order to highlight the most enviable position of all, that of the scribe.
I think I'd rather be a potter and live in a bog than be known as the smelliest person alive. Just saying. GTA 5, well, some of the DLCs they really brought it out, like the D-Day and the nightclub and that, but there's others it's just sort of, it's up and down, losing a lot of the
Located near the
aesthetics to
Valley
what
of the
people
Kings, Deir el-Medina was a settlement
like, what
created by
people really
order
enjoy
of the
on it.
king to honor the most skilled artisans. Its name translates as the Monastery of the City. Allocated a house on the initiative of the king, these craftsfolk were regarded with respect and referred to as the royal artisans. Those who lived there worked on the tombs in the Valley of the Kings and its surrounding temples.
I really enjoyed Minecraft, but at first but yeah, I think there was two things that really got me a bit upset about it. Number one, I had ultra lag whenever I hopped onto online sessions, and
archaeologists believe the site was home to skilled and respected artisans for over 400 years. It is considered one of the most important discoveries relating to Egyptian daily life. While much of the focus of Egyptian archaeology was on its kings and queens, it wasn't until the excavation of Deir el-Medina that Egyptologists were given a valuable window into the community life of ancient Egyptian artisans.
Oh, I love those days that are so lit. In fact, the last time on Fortnite where I had an ultra lit moment was the best duo win ever video that I did with my mate Jace. That was hilarious. It happened to be as someone dressed as Zoe or something like that, and we're up against a duo. I come up from the side, take one of them down, knock the other guy's shields down and health, and it was probably the first duo that we've ever really gotten where we've had an even team against us instead of a solo. And it was intense. We had a duo and a solo charging at us. Neither of us went down. I was so happy. I was just so proud of that moment. It does really feel like that, to be honest. Like Assassin's Creed, the very first one, and this massively similar feel. It feels like they're just trying to, in a way, it's like they don't really want to continue with present day too much. Like they want to sort of drag it out and kind of explore more areas of the world before they go to the end.
Welcome to Mummies of Ancient Egypt.
I bet you the 69th comment is going to be one hilarious one. Just saying.
The mummification process used by ancient Egyptians was highly ceremonial in nature. The different types of mummification took into account the social level and richness of the deceased and even included animals. The most expensive was that reserved for the pharaoh and the royal family, as well as some of the wealthiest members of the court.
I don't know why too, but this just suddenly feels like the Black Ops day with the hot sauce challenge. The comments are just coming in like rapid fire all of a sudden. Although it was a Zeus raid type of thing.
The first step was cleaning. Once bodies arrived at the mummification site, they were placed on inclined tables while the bodily fluids drained away. They were then cleansed by priests until they were deemed ready for the purification process.
Wow. Ew.
The purification of the body began with a libation from sacred water. The priest then fumigated the body with terebinth resin. After the ritual cleansing, priests used oils, spices, and all kinds of essences to further purify the body of the deceased. Finally, all body hair was meticulously removed. Once the body was properly purified, embalmers removed the organs, following very specific procedures. First, the brain was extracted by inserting a spoon through the nostril.
I only just saw that on the stream as
then using
like,
a spatula,
as it was
pieces of the brain
behind
were
there.
removed as thoroughly as possible. What matter remained was extracted after a process of liquefaction, achieved through the use of a caustic liquid. The cranial box, once emptied, was rinsed and disinfected
Oh,
with palm wine, and then
69.
stuffed with strips of linen cloth and
What did I
liquefied
say?
resin.
69. Oh, yeah. I knew there was going to be something awkward. Oh my god.
After taking care of the brain, embalmers made an incision on the left flank and carefully set aside the viscera. The inside of the body was also rinsed with palm wine. Then the embalmers filled the belly with pure myrrh, cinnamon, and other perfumes, and sewed it shut. The removed viscera were washed in palm wine and packed in crushed herbs before being placed in canopic jars.
I played Agony on live stream, which was probably a massive mistake considering how out there it is, if you get what I mean. I'm still lucky I haven't been banned for that. Basically, this woman stood up completely stark naked in front of me. Straight up on screen, pretty clear to see that that was rough, but
Canopic
yeah.
jars were placed close to the sarcophagus or kept in a chest nearby. At first, the viscera were wrapped in tissue and placed in the vases. As the ritual requirements became more elaborate, ointments, spices, and even water and natron were added to the process.
I'm thinking about doing like a separate thing, like a separate channel attempt for the current version, which I have two versions of Agony. First is the version that was cleaned out, which I do for YouTube, and I'm not going for the full scenes that were banned. I'm going to be doing them on a separate thing, separate site altogether, and I'm hoping that I don't get shit for that. Thank you for joining the stream, mate, and love from Australia as well. I'll definitely be looking at going to Malaysia after the New Zealand trip. Definitely. Peace out, bro.
Towards the middle of the New Kingdom, canopic jars assumed the appearance of the four sons of Horus. They were known as the protectors of the viscera. These protectors had their own guardians, each a goddess of the dead. Imseti, the human-headed god, protected the liver and was protected by the goddess Iset. Hapi, the baboon-headed god, protected the lungs and was protected by the goddess Nephthys. Dumakef, the jackal-headed god, protected the stomach and was protected by the goddess Neith. And finally, Kebesenuef, the falcon-headed god, protected the intestines and was protected by the goddess Selket.
It's not the end with Frexa, me, Zen and all that. Once we get that Discord all set up and running, we'll be going for a full time. And yes,
Natron
I will
is
be
a
doing
naturally
chat in that.
occurring mineral found in evaporite. These sedimentary rocks are made up of mineral salts and were generally mined from lake beds in Egypt.
From lake beds.
Embalmers used natron as a desiccant to dry the flesh and stop the corpse's putrefaction process. Once the body was cleansed and eviscerated, the deceased was covered in natron for about 40 days. Once desiccated, the body was prepared to be wrapped in strips of linen.
That photo isn't much more relaxing. The only part of the embalming process that I hate to see is when they have to reach their hands inside and pull that stuff out.
Once the body was fully desiccated by the natron treatment, embalmers oiled, painted, and sometimes even added hair extensions or a wig. They often used a henna-based antiseptic preparation to give the body a more colorful and lively appearance while preparing it to resist molds and fungi.
If they need a fun guy around, just get them to come to me. Apparently I'm smiling.
Next came the phase which gave mummies
Okay,
their
that was
most
sad.
well-known appearance, the wrapping. Originally, each part of the body was wrapped separately. Men had their arms crossed on their chests, while women had the right arm folded over their breasts and the left arm stretched along the body. However, techniques evolved over time. Eventually, the body as a whole was wrapped with limbs alongside the body, and increasingly sophisticated and different techniques of weaving flax bands were developed. In addition to the jewelry and amulets arranged on the skin of the deceased, amulets were also carefully inserted into the weaving of the linen strips. Each amulet was linked to a myth or to an ideological belief related to rebirth.
I do love how they make it so realistic. Like, if I had to guess, a lot of this probably would be artwork, but the rest, like, when it comes to these mummies, that's pretty good.
Masks were an important part of a mummy's finery. Early wooden funeral coverings were very expensive, however, and soon replaced by masks created through a technique known as cartonnage. Masks fashioned with this method were created by laying several layers of linen or papyrus pulp on a base made of mud or straw. Cartonnage was used for more than funerary masks. Ornaments and the animal coffins of the late period were also made in such a fashion.
I'm considering getting one of those just so I can go around in the dark, prick my mates at their home. Just tap on the windows, see what they do. Ooh. Oh, I haven't finished. Whoops, sorry. Yes, I got more stations.
Cartonnage evolved to cover the entire body of the mummy during the 22nd dynasty. The mummies were placed on a board inside a rigid envelope of cartonnage, which was laced at the back with a string. Extremely cost-effective and visually pleasing, this technique was very popular through all layers of the society.
My God.
Cartonnage envelopes were usually covered with inscriptions and polychrome decorations, specifying the names and titles of the deceased, scenes depicting daily life, or decorations specific to the funerary world. This was a true gift for Egyptologists eager to study the funerary rites of the ancient Egyptians.
I also love too to actually find someone who can actually decipher all these hieroglyphs, or most of it, so I can actually be able to understand
Once the mummy
what
was
they
properly wrapped and adorned,
resemble.
the embalmers proceeded with the ceremony of the opening of the mouth. A vital step of the funerary process, this ceremony was meant to bring back to life the deceased themselves, or an object representing the deceased.
Opening of the mouth, all you gotta do is... I ran out of coffee. One of my recent videos that I did, the mega cringe, I said I loved coffee in that, but I probably should have explained that it's a bad addiction for me. For iced coffee alone, I could drink 2 liters a day. And that's probably all I'll drink. Every day.
There were no less than 75 different stages for the opening of the mouth. It required the application of the same oils, ointments, spices, and perfumes used during the mummification process. Makeup was sometimes part of the process as well.
Yep. I probably should kick back, but it's just... I feel so addicted, drawn to it. It's just so...
The last stage of this long ritual was the act of touching the mouth with the adze to symbolically allow the breath of life to infuse an inert body. Its performance was reserved for a very specific set of people. Priests who wore the mask of the god Anubis, a close relative of the family, or by the heir to the throne.
Oh. Oh. Now I understand the meaning behind the opening of the mouth ceremony part. It's actually quite addicting compared to tea. Like I started off with cups of tea at first and it was alright, but once I discovered coffee, it's just
Welcome
I
to
was
the major
converted
regions
straight
of
on.
Egypt.
Why is it? There we go.
Life in ancient Egypt was concentrated along the shores of the Nile and divided into two regions. Lower Egypt was situated on the Nile Delta near the Mediterranean, and Upper Egypt was at the south reaching into Africa. Due to its
Thinking of how
proximity
I'll
to
do
the
that.
Mediterranean, temperatures in Lower Egypt were less extreme than in Upper Egypt.
Actually, that reminds me, I have Spotify, so or premium, so see what I've got on that. See if they got any good background music. It's the sound. I'm just going to quickly pause the stream, keep the comments going on with this, like pause it on my phone there so I can still see it. Nope, nope, no, no, no. Is that too loud? There we go. I think that should be loud enough for you. I definitely will. In fact, actually, I've got a track that I've just made myself. And the name. Yeah, I'm considering that it might be a bit of a awkward name for it, but it's a dubstep drop track. I might save that just like for its own video for that,
Until
but in the
3100
background as well I can
BCE
also
and
do
the
a bit of
unification of Egypt,
chill,
each
lounge,
region had its own
R&B
pharaoh
in the
and
background.
crown. Lower Egypt's crown was red and marked with of papyrus and bees.
There is that. Because if it's a little bit too quiet I can always turn it up or turn it down a bit.
Both regions had competing major cities, most notably Memphis in Lower Egypt and Thebes in Upper Egypt. There were different religious cults in both regions, each worshipping their own major gods.
I've just realised too, I've got to go back to work tomorrow and pick up my speaker, my Bluetooth one that's on it mate, so I'll bring that back home. That's how I put them on to Share Factory since I don't have a USB to a port. I just play the songs I make over the thing, so
Many of the
I'll
temples
get
were
that set
designed
up.
in such a way
It's so much
as
clearer
to
sound on the
represent the
phone
two
too.
regions,
It's a
and
Sony
ceremonies often
SRX,
incorporated
SRS
Upper and Lower
XB20 type
Egypt
speaker
in their
with the
rituals.
flashing lights and stuff on it to the beat of the music. So I can probably get that set up and going. "25 stations, 8 minutes. Doesn't feel like it's going to be 8 minutes, but seems a bit awkward though. It doesn't look like he's actually paddling. It looks like he's just going like that, like just holding it there. I mean, I don't understand how it works, but if you're not moving it, so.
Welcome to Temples and Priests. From its foundation, the city of Memphis favored worship of the god Ptah. The main temple of Ptah was known as Hutkah, meaning Palace of the Ka of Ptah. The name of the temple, translated into Greek as Aegyptos, would eventually evolve into the modern name Egypt. Temples were the center of religious, political, and economic life in ancient Egypt. These sacred places were viewed as the literal home of the gods and goddesses. As such, every aspect of them required care and reverence, all of which was accomplished through elaborate ritual. Located in the center of Memphis, the Temple of Ptah was the most prominent and imposing building in the city. The long walkway leading toward the temple, known as the Dromos, was guarded by rows of sphinxes. The entire sacred area was designed to keep the statue of the god protected, deep within the sacred enclosures that surrounded it. The Dromos opened into a courtyard, with the surrounding portico graced with columns carved to resemble palm trees. During special festivals, the general population was allowed to enter this location, but under no circumstances would they be allowed into the sacred spaces beyond the courtyard.
That's a tough one. I'm tied between two. I'm an absolute dead-on fan of AFL. I go for Port Adelaide Football Club because I was born in Port Adelaide. Well, yeah, just in my bones, I guess, in my blood, and I always go for my home team. And I always go in soccer for Manchester United and Adelaide United.
The Memphis Alabaster Sphinx was discovered in 1912, almost completely buried in water and sand. 8 meters in height and weighing in at roughly 90 tons, it is still mounted on its original pedestal. Though it is called the Alabaster Sphinx, it was in fact carved from common calcite rock, which is similar in appearance and texture to alabaster.
You got a favorite player out there? Anyone that you really love?
Erosion has destroyed the original engravings, making it difficult to determine when it was created. Egyptologists believe that its facial likeness resembles Amenhotep II, and so it could have been sculpted somewhere between 1700 and 1400 BCE. It is believed that this monument once stood outside of the Temple of Ptah and was integrated into subsequent extensions to the complex. The size of the imposing sculpture reflects the importance it had to the temple during the New Kingdom. This Sphinx is one of the few remaining artifacts from the ruins of Memphis to survive.
See you in the next video, mate, and this is probably going to be my last one for tonight, so this last little tour. So yeah, I'll see you next time, mate, and after this too I'll also subscribe to your channel and Faroukso as well, and get us all into a Discord, and I'll get him to see if he can set up the bot from Discord to my channel for me, and yeah. But thank you for the support, mate, and peace out from your boy, DJ Slowly.
While others were considered to be living gods. The Apis bull was believed to be a divine entity. The earliest mention of the Apis bull
Cheers,
in
mate.
ancient
Cheers.
Egypt goes back as far as the first
Is that your...
Egyptian dynasty.
Actually, before you go, is that your channel? Oh, wow. Wow. I actually had no idea we were even at 100 yet.
Originally the symbol of fertility, the Apis bull was linked to the god Ra, with the image of the sun carried between its horns. Later it was associated with Osiris, the ruler of the underworld, thus becoming the funerary divinity Osiris. During the 18th dynasty in Memphis, the Apis bull's association with the city's deity earned it the title Herald of Ka. The Apis bull was so revered that even Alexander the Great, upon his arrival in Memphis, gave honor to Apis.
Yo, Zen, how you doing, bro? You are officially the 101th comment, Zen, mate.
Located in an enclosure in the Temple of Ka.
I'm
Each bull bore 21
surprised I
signs
managed to get past
representative of its
100.
divinity. Among
Or
them, the
even
bull
past
had an
50,
eagle-shaped mark
actually.
on its back, a double tailhead, and a scarab-shaped mark under the tongue. The signs were intended to correspond with the lunar cycle.
The 69 comment got really weird though.
Egyptians
Just
would
saying.
search for its reincarnated form among the
It was so
livestock.
awkward. Congratulations, mate. And also too,
Like other
I've got
living
something
divinities,
going on now
the
for
mortal
sponsors
incarnation
and
of the
members
Apis
for
bull
the
was
Soul
praised,
Army Elite,
and when it died,
and
it was given a
I've got
luxurious
exclusive
funeral, which
videos,
included mummification.
high tier giveaways,
Until the reign of Ramses II,
and
the
shout
Apis
outs
bulls
across
were buried
all
in
social media
individual graves in
platforms.
Saqqara. During the 26th
So basically,
dynasty,
everything
the
that I
bodies
have
of
a
the
social
bulls were
media
buried
account
in
on,
enormous stone vats
it
in the
will be
underground
going across
corridors
it
of
just
the
so you
Serapeum
can
of
get
Memphis.
popular, and as well it's free for all the crew and that, so you're all good for that. I'll get you covered. And Discord as well, I'll be putting it up on there soon too, once I get that set up. I'm gonna get Faroukso to help me out with that. So then you can put a little bit of a bot onto my thing, so it'll be able to, anything that's typed onto my chat now will be on my Discord. So I can actually talk live with my subscribers instead of text. And I'm not having to go back and forth reading comments all the time. So it's a bit of a mix.
Ancient Egyptians believed that temple rituals were essential to maintain order in the cosmos and allow communication between humans and gods. The pharaoh was required to bring offerings as part of a twofold promise made to the gods, to remain a just ruler and to prevent chaos from entering Egypt.
Sorry, I'm just a little bit touchy about that stuff now after seeing all these challenges and stuff on YouTube. That better? Is this that a bit easy to hear, or? No, I don't want to get on my knees and pray.
Details of the ceremonies found on temple walls provide a
Yeah, I'm gonna
thorough
put
overview
everything
of
on
the
Discord
stages
for
of the
Soul
daily
Army
ritual.
Elite, and
Performed
Facebook,
3 times a day
Snapchat,
to mirror
Instagram,
human
Twitter,
meal times.
anything I can,
Each
even
step of the
PSN,
highly
sort of
symbolic ceremony
spread the word, I
was
guess.
accompanied by specific
For
recitations,
the crew, it's
many
free,
of which
and
referred to mythical events.
if you're in the collab with us, so you're all good for that, and yeah. I don't like this because of the challenges and stuff. I heard about the how to contact the dead stuff from top 15s, and now it's got me paranoid. I'm just afraid about anything.
The high priest would first awaken the sleeping god with a chant. Then the seals of the shrine's doors were broken and the bolts drawn back. The act of swinging open the doors was a symbolic gesture where sight was granted to the deity. The priest would then bow and kiss the ground.
Just like he did then. I hope you get there, man. Hope you get to 500. I'll definitely keep helping out and doing what I can to get people to check out your channel, and also too for these streams like this, everyone, I would just keep on trying to get in there, share around the subscriptions and stuff, see what I can do for everyone, and hopefully we can hit 500 within the rest of this year. You'll be able to smash past it, hopefully.
Heredity was the primary source of new recruits. Rarely was an outsider allowed this position. At the top of the temple hierarchy was the high priest. Each temple dedicated to a god had at least one high priest devoted to its care and service. During the Ptolemaic dynasty, one family held the position of high priest in Memphis for almost 300 years.
Jeez. So guys, this is going to be the final tour for tonight.
High priest candidates made their way up the ranks of the temple hierarchy.
17,
The one chosen
25.
to occupy the lofty position of high priest was usually confirmed by the pharaoh. Several of the high priests were also important officials in the government.
There we go, that's what I want.
Families sharing the highest priesthood titles tended to make many alliances, thereby gaining more land and wealth. Shifting balances of power sometimes resulted in more or less open conflicts between the priesthood and the pharaohs.
Actually, I'll check out Chainsmokers VR by Sony, see if they've actually done the
in the
Stuart thing up there.
Dynasty,
It's
Thebes became the capital of an almost
Paris,
entirely
I think it is.
theocratic government.
Or is it close?
The city was headed by king priests who spoke
One of those
and governed
songs, but
in the
I'll
name
definitely
of the
look that
god
up, see
Amun,
through
in
the
open
VR and
opposition
just
to the
go
ruling pharaohs.
any games and then
These king
whatever I can
priests
get.
caused a massive decentralization of power.
That
known
was good.
as the Third
That experience
Intermediate
was different to what I was expecting. I thought it'd be a lot like the original music video where you can sort of look around as that person as they're doing what they do. But it was beautiful. I would definitely love him to do
The
another one of
educational
them.
institution in ancient Egypt was known as the House of Life. Attended by the offspring of the elite and the clergy, it was a place tailored to the social status of its attendees. The earliest references to this type of institution date back to royal decrees of the Old Kingdom.
Really good. It's not goodbye Telltale. Okay, just to clarify, Telltale isn't done yet. They have confirmed that most of the voice acting is done, and it's annoying me how people are saying that they're definitely not going to complete Telltale's The Walking Dead Season 4,
Only
like the
two
final
known
season.
centers have been uncovered.
But
One in the abandoned city
they haven't
of
100% said that
and one
yet.
at the
They said
temple
that
of Ramses
looking for a
II
solution,
on the west
hoping to
bank of
find something,
Thebes.
but they'll keep us updated as they
Inscriptions
go.
uncovered in those
No
locations
promises,
mention
but
the names and
we'll
titles
see what
of people
happens, I
who were
guess.
connected with the House
And
of
I will be
Life,
doing a marathon
such as
soon.
a
When
chief
episode 3
physician
comes out,
and
I'll
many
do that.
scribes.
And then go from
It
season
is
1
presumed that by the
to
late kingdom,
the
every
final
temple
season,
had a House of
smash
Life.
out all the episodes perfectly with the slightly different choices, and hopefully I can change up some of it and give it a bit of a better outcome.
The House of Life offered training for the elite, destined
Yeah, actually,
for
I really
occupations
like this
such
game.
as
It's definitely
astronomers,
worth giving it a
doctors,
go.
veterinarians,
And I've managed to
diplomats,
smash out platinum on this,
architects,
so
translators, or theologians. Some institutions focused on specific disciplines, making them a central
I
hub
think this
for the
was my
country.
8th, actually 7th platinum. My 8th was Saints Row Get Out of Hell. Yeah, I don't know why I went for platinum on that, since
Not limited
I
to
fall asleep a
instruction
lot
for
playing
young
that one.
students, the House of Life was a source of reference for many scholars, with rooms dedicated to papyri of many disciplines. Because papyri were preserved there, the Greco-Romans referred to the House of Life as a library.
And I will be doing more Paranormal Activity VR, because Paranormal Activity VR game have actually commented on a video thanking me for support, and I've been getting into their stuff and their aesthetics of the game and the way they set it up, just to delve into an entirely new story or a new version of it. I'm definitely going to keep going with it, and hopefully I can keep people interested in those games where they may not be that popular because they're not well known, or not many people have had a chance to spread it around, but I'll definitely get it in there.
Ancient Egyptian economy was based on an unequal
Yes,
system
actually,
of redistribution of
Black
goods.
Ops 4, a very
The state
special
of
one.
Egypt collected the crops,
I'm
and
going
the
to be
temples
giving
distributed
away,
them throughout the provinces.
officially giving away,
Since the only people capable of counting and
100
ensuring a fair
PayPal
redistribution
dollars,
were the educated scribes,
but
this meant that the
there's a
temples
bonus.
played a pivotal role in this
If you're in
process.
Australia, that money will currently add up to $140 plus an added bonus. So if I send it back, like once I get it into my account and send it off, I'll be sending off the full 100. And if there's any fees on it or anything, I'll be also adding on 20 as well, so it's 120 that I'll be giving away. So then you'll still even make a profit then.
There are records of pharaohs making offerings of large tracts of
And
land
I also wanted to make a
animals
big
to
special
temples
thank you
in order
to
to maintain
Cheetah
their
Keyboard.
favor.
They aren't sponsoring this.
Ramses III offered
There's
generous
no
gifts
affiliation
to the
with this,
temple of
but
Amun in Karnak
Cheetah
in such a
Keyboard
manner.
has been absolutely amazing, not just for the cash abilities that I have with it,
Palaces, warehouses,
just the
and granaries were
amazing
built inside the
control
temple
I have of
compound to
everything.
better control the redistribution
Just
of goods.
fully customizable
The
keyboards.
size of the
You
recorded
can
numbers of
customize
goods,
the sound effects on
combined
the
with every
keyboard.
other function
You
filled
can
by
check out what's
temples,
hot and what's
only
new, read
serves
the
to confirm
news.
their
You've got
mark
everything.
as economic, religious, and political
And
centers
not
of
only
power
that too,
within
you
Egypt.
also get cash rewards the more you type and use those keyboards for text. So it adds up to a bonus. That one, it's a random winner. So once I hit about, say, at least 20 comments or so, or maybe going for about 20 viewers, I'll be just selecting randomly from them. So, yeah, who knows? All you gotta do is just be there, have fun, enjoy, and I'll update in the comments after once my elected decider has decided. So I'm not actually going to be deciding that. I'm going to be handing that off to someone else in the stream, and then they will be able to pick through, so that they know that there's no unfairness, that basically, yeah, everything from scratch, I guess. But yeah, anyway, thank you guys for everything, and anyone watching this in the future or even now, I'll finish off the last of the pyramids and continue through down the far right hand side of Egypt and work my way back up from there. And it's been an absolute fun ride. Digital Storm. No, don't know about that one. I might fit this one
Welcome
in.
to the Red Pyramid of Dashur. The Red Pyramid was built 2 kilometers to the north of the Bent Pyramid. It was so named
The
due to
only
the reddish
PCs I've really
limestone
heard
used in
of,
its
or
construction.
anything that
The Red
I can really
Pyramid
relate
reached a
to,
height
is
of 105
HP.
meters. While
Dell,
the ground level
and
of the Red
Alienware.
Pyramid is lower
Those are
than
the
that
three
of the Bench
usually
Pyramid, its height is
the only
virtually
three I
the
really
same.
know about the most.
The task of making the pyramid a
Although Alienware is
geometrical
still my
true
favorite.
flat face pyramid brought about yet another new design concept, the use of casing blocks.
I had a HP Compaq actually, and it did eventually crap out because of too much porn. Excuse me. Sorry. Yes, it did. It did eventually crash out because of Trojan viruses from it. So, but during the time I had it, it was compatible with Windows 7 and Windows 10, I believe. So you can have a lot of the more recent games, and you can go for games like Age of Empires and it'll still be able to install on that, alright, to games like World of Warcraft, and then from there you can go to games like the new Marvel Spider-Man or Black Ops 3, and it runs beautifully. The processing speed on it is perfect, and I think it costs
The
only
descending
about,
corridor
if
of
you
the
wanted to
pyramid,
go for
which
the
opens to the north, arrives at ground level, where two
proper security
almost
on it and
identical
everything, and
spectacular chambers
everything
with
you
high
really have to
ceilings
spend on it, I'd
are
say
aligned north to south and connected by a short
about
horizontal
800
passage.
tops.
In the south
It's
wall
pretty
of the
good though.
second
It
chamber,
lasted
accessed
years.
by a
Like, it was the
staircase,
only one I ever
another
used.
corridor leads to the final chamber, which is built within the masonry of the pyramid itself
Multiple
and
ones.
aligned east to west.
It spotted over at least 100,000 fatal issues with the computer when I scanned it after. Yeah. After that. That was a lot of issues.
The annexes of the Red Pyramid consist of a small funerary temple located to the east.
Oh, this is
A
becoming
causeway
cringe like my last
presumably
video.
ran due east from the temple, but it has yet to be excavated.
Did you see my last video with the mega cringe? I am regretting that, but at the same time it feels good to get that off my chest, so I don't know. It was that video, it's like mega cringe, but it's true that I love, and then it just, yeah, ends dot dot dot. Yeah. First of all, you find out that I have a coffee addiction. Second of all, you find out I have a loss. It's absolutely horrible. In fact, even listening to that, I actually had to take my headphones out because I hurt my own ears. Do a vlog. I'm thinking about doing that actually with pranks involving liquid arse. Yes, I have ordered liquid arse on eBay. And, well, there's a shop nearby with an elevator. And I'm thinking, spray liquid arse in there, just inconspicuously without the cameras noticing, and then just stand back and watch people's reactions as they walk in. It's best if two people walk in and they don't know each other. The first one to walk in will get blamed. Can't wait to see that.
The Red Pyramid was structurally sound, and once finished, marked a remarkable design milestone. Finally successful in his attempts to build himself a suitable funerary monument, Sneferu knew his future beyond death was assured.
Ooh, good sweet, eh? Yeah, it's currently 10:40, so yeah, I'll have to continue this later on and do it tomorrow after work, and yeah, excuse me. So yeah, some days, what the hell? Sorry, there we go. Yeah, it filters out swear words and stuff for some reason. I don't know why. I told it not to. I don't know why, but it's just weird. But
Nature
hey,
is a
that's
colorless
YouTube
salt
having its
that was
glitches
used
every
by
now and
ancient
then.
Egyptians for food
8:40 AM,
preservation, cleansing
jeez.
products, and glass making. It was also used in the mummification process.
Before I get any more cringe and reveal
During
the
the
truth about
ceremonial
that
embalming
mega
ritual,
cringe
the
video,
priests packed the body
I
in
don't want to
natron in
reveal
order
too
to
much.
remove
If you
all
guys
the
want to go see
moisture.
it, or anyone in the future
Once
or
the body
currently
was thoroughly
watching,
desiccated, they
by all
could
means
begin the
check it
wrapping.
out. And everything I said in that, what makes it cringy is that it's true. Every word, especially towards the end, during the card game, just watch that. You can check
Natron
out
was
me on
mined
PSN
in
with
water
my background cover image and
The
follow me
main
on
mining
PSN if you
methods
want to see
involved
it.
either cutting slices out of the lake bed when it was dry, or raking through mineral-saturated water to gather the mineral
Brisbane,
salts during
Queensland,
the
in
floods.
Australia. A lot of people keep thinking that I have a bit of a different accent every now and then and say sometimes I have slipped into Scottish a little bit with my accent. And while I do have partly Scottish background in my ancestry, we don't anymore.
Both
It's been
techniques are still
probably
used
100
today
years since
and
the last Scottish
inspired the
person was
team in
alive
their
in the family.
recreation of the mines
So I
located in the
don't know
mountains
why,
northwest of Memphis.
See you guys in the next episode. Peace out from your boy, DJ Soulsy.